Hi you guys, welcome to the weekly bump. A day late. Time does not exist here in Jane's world, I swear. I have no idea what day it is most of the time. If it wasn't for this weekly bump, if I'm being totally honest, if it wasn't for this weekly bump, I probably would be missing way more flights just because I felt like sleeping in that day or something. It was a beautiful morning. I woke up and the wind was blowing, which it never really does here too much. And I took this little video just to kind of share with you since I'm not sitting on the balcony because it is so hot outside. But it doesn't do it justice, of course. The mountains are huge. Whoops. Anyway, you get the idea. It is so beautiful here. You know, I don't feel so connected to Montenegro per se. I really loved Belgrade. I really loved Budapest. But here in Kotor has been, I don't know whether it's just been because it was Cancer season and we went through the Pluto-Sun opposition, or if it's not really my place. I don't know. Not a lot of desire to explore, to see anything. Like I just barely went into Old Town. Just barely. The tourists, to see this touristy stuff. I mostly just kind of have been staying pretty local and doing just kind of really mundane, everyday kind of things. So it's been kind of a weird month. I'm kind of ready to go home. I'm heading home in the beginning of August after just a couple days in France, and then it should be nice to be home in Vegas for a while, in spite of the sweltering heat. So let's talk a little bit about the sky. There's not a lot going on. We're building up to things, you know. We are working our way up to, We're working our way up to the Mercury retrograde. We've got Venus in Virgo right now. One thing I do want to point out, okay, I know, the eclipses. Yeah, okay, I get it. We got the sun coming in contact with the North Node. The moon in Libra today is making its way over to Aquarius, where it's going to have the new moon. And the sun is also coming into a square with Uranus, okay? As it works its way toward 2 degrees, between 2 and 3 degrees of Leo, we are going to have an extra dose of Leo versus Aquarius. And this is such a huge moment for us to really come in contact and to really understand our identity and what that really truly is and what that really means, and how that sense of identity can be used for the greater good, right? There's a reason why Leo comes before Aquarius, right? House 5 versus House 11. There's a reason for that, because we must come to understand ourselves before we can understand our part in the greater collective, okay? We're working our way up to the Mercury retrograde. Here it is. We're in the shadow phase right now, so it's going to be doing its thing the next few weeks. Self-expression, I don't know, it's going to be an interesting one. House of self-expression and the planet of talking, of words, of communicating, you know. And we're going to have an opportunity to really tap into that right side of our brain, as we always do with a Mercury retrograde, where projects and creativity can really come to fruition. Our brainstorming power is at an all-time high. So meditation will be fantastic this time as well. Especially because it is also in a trine. Oh no, it's not quite yet. Never mind. Forget I said that. I was looking at the ascendant there, which is irrelevant. And we have Venus as well, working well in Virgo, doing its thing, putting us to work, having a lot of energy as well, which is great. Leo season is going to be bringing out a lot of energy in us as well. There's a nurturing quality actually with both of these. I do find that Leo is a very nurturing sign. Venus in an opposition with Neptune, as we're dealing with relationships too, things can be a little bit kind of fuzzy or hazy. Often our value systems can kind of shift as well, and the things that were important to us kind of go through a little bit of a revision. They tend to get put under the microscope a little bit, and we have an opportunity to really solidify that which we really do truly believe, and that which is really truly important. There's an element of service coming here as well, and you may have a tendency to be over giving at this time, being a little bit over accommodating, working a little bit too hard to compensate for someone else's sort of misgivings or whatever. And that's okay as long as you're not getting taken advantage of, right? I'm going to talk mostly about the Sun, Uranus, Aquarius, Leo, not necessarily the eclipses, but rather how it coincides with a book that I recently read as a gift from someone, one of you guys. So let me switch this back here. Okay. Hi. Alrighty, so someone, first of all, every week I'm like blown away by you guys. Every single week I come in contact with another highly advanced person. When I say advanced, not only do I mean people that have the intellectual knowledge, but the true spiritual knowledge as well, where they're using both and they're living their lives accordingly, which is pretty amazing. It's hard to do in today's day and age to live your life according to your spiritual values and to remain awake at all times, even when you are kind of forced to be out in the world, to be at your job or whatever, right? We do have to walk that line between this. That's kind of like the tree of life concept, right? It's got the 3 pillars. We have the really, really spiritual pillar, we have the really, really practical pillar, and then in the center we have that fine line, which is the way, right? The way we need to go. Now, someone gave me an audiobook, and you can find it free on YouTube if you want to listen to it as well. It's about 6 hours long. It's really easy. The language is amazing. It's called It's called An Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I'll try to put the link down below for you guys as well. An Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I'm going to go into a little bit of this, and I talked to Leo in their monthlies as well about this, because I felt that the Leo reading this month just applies to everybody simply because of the eclipses. I'm sure Aquarius is going to apply to everybody as well, where there's going to be just kind of this global collective energy that we're all sort of dealing with. So I am going to repeat, if you're a Leo, you'll probably hear this message a couple times. This will be more in depth. So this book talks about the connections with the awareness and the consciousness. It kind of is like a step-by-step guide for those who are beginners, kind of like me. I don't know, maybe I'm intermediate, right? But those of you who are beginner to intermediate level in terms of connection and understanding what your consciousness is and understanding that true self, this is an amazing book for you. It talks about how to separate your true self, which is your consciousness, which is your awareness. Separate it against your thoughts and against your feelings, okay? And the way that he kind of described it was this. And the past few days, I've been putting this into practice, and in just a few days, I'm already completely shifting the way I see myself and the way I see the world and the way I experience my day-to-day kind of mundane things. If you were at dinner with a person who is talking and saying all the things that your head is saying, that voice inside your head, how long would you really entertain that person at dinner or sitting next to you, just kind of yammering on and on and on and on? It's like this incessant whirlwind of thought and this incessant whirlwind of voice, and there's no consistency with it either. It's riddled with optimism and then fear and then it's pain and then it's joy, and it's like all over the place, up, down, left, right, back, forward. It's so random. And some people have more logical thoughts, you know, more analytical thoughts, but some have thoughts that are just like, whoa, kind of all over the place, very 9 of Swords, 10 of Swords kinds of things, right? And so just kind of sitting on my balcony here, drinking my tea, sitting here on the couch, and thinking about the thoughts, which is kind of the first step to true awareness, the first step into understanding your real essence, you know? Oh, I totally skipped the cards. Can I just skip the cards this week? I don't even know. Like, let's do this one, bottom of the deck, Three of Swords reversed. Yeah, I'm burnt out on tarot, guys. I've been doing private readings like you would not believe. Now I have to do monthlies. I have to like turn it off on my website. Now is absolutely 100% our opportunity to really break free from anything that is holding us back, any pain, any fear, because somehow these fears, which I'll get to in a second, they really do become a part of our identity. They become a part of who we are. And now with Sun squaring Uranus, the opposition, the eclipses, the new moon, full moon, you know, all that stuff, it's not going to allow us to continue. This has been the closing of the door that I think we've been waiting for the past few years. I remember eclipse season in 2016. And I remember, I don't think that wasn't on the, I don't think that was on the Aquarius Leo axis. I think that was Virgo Pisces, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly, but I remember that was kind of when all that stuff that I was dealing with really started to feel incredibly potent. And since then, it's kind of just been this ongoing story where I haven't been able to shed this kind of emotional baggage, right? And as much as I'm sitting here preaching, let it go, let it go, let it go, I myself have really struggled with the actual release of this. And this book has helped me in just a few days. It's incredibly powerful. It's very fast acting. You know, it happened to the point where I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I really see how these people can just kind of move past their emotions and they don't get so caught up in the way something feels. And being a Scorpio moon, like it's all about the feelings, you know? And going through the Pluto-Sun opposition, there was intense feelings for me, really, really harsh feelings. And all the stuff continued to bubble up as though it was just happening yesterday. But it was years ago, you know? So this book talks about this separation, the awareness of awareness. And someone else had sent me a video. Maybe I'll post a link to this too. Let me make a note. It's like a Rosicrucian kind of introduction to the initiation of, you know, the process. And they talk about this too. Let me hold on. I'll post it too for anyone who's interested. This is, you know, you guys, these weekly bumps are really, I'm talking to such advanced people, but I know that there are beginners as well. So it will really help the beginners and also to reinforce your advanced knowledge as well. As you progress from understanding and creating that separation, the true self-consciousness against your emotions and against your thoughts and emotions purely as functions of the third dimensional form, purely as tools and mechanisms through which to achieve some kind of purpose or to carry out this kind of mission, if you will, moves into specifically fear and pain. We all experience that in some way. We all experience both positive and negative emotions, but it's usually the negative emotions that really force us into lifestyles that we don't like or into relationships that we don't, you know, that we don't feel happy in, or any other kind of circumstance that we feel incredibly restricted. Usually these are the reasons why we don't do stuff. And usually pain and fear are the reasons why we either hold back or we act out, right? We can overcompensate for those fears and we can do reckless and haphazard things. The fear and the energy and the circumstances, these are all our beasts, right? Our beasts in our life. I talk about the beast all the time when I talk about the Strength card, and because it's Leo season, this card is especially relevant. So let me pull it out. I did this for Leo too. So if I can find it, should have prepared better. Is it going to be the last card I pull out? Yes, it is. The last one. Okay. So here we have the woman who represents the self, the consciousness, the awareness, the connection with everything that's really behind us. It's behind she's literally behind it, right? The emotion, which is the lion, the beast, the thoughts, the lion, the beast, the circumstances, the relationships, the relationships with money, the relationships with our career and our parents and all that kind of stuff. And yet it is our consciousness that is able to tame the beasts, yet it will never transform the actual essence of those things. It will always be a lion, it will always be a beast, yet you do not need to fall prey to it. To remain healthfully detached and to truly live each day, one single day at a time, because the beast can always be unpredictable, Even astrology, I categorize here, because astrology represents our sort of energetic construct through which we experience this world, but it is not who we are. There's not a single person on this channel watching my weekly bump that's going to say like, yeah, no, we are not. Like, yeah, no, we are not our astrology chart. We are like, I am not a Virgo. I am not a Scorpio moon, right? Even just kind of the contrast between tropical astrology and Vedic astrology, you'll see that here's two very, very different astrology systems, and like all my Scorpio gets stripped away and gets thrown into Libra. And so it's this false sense of identity anyway. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to relate so heavily to one system, but here's another system that says something completely different. They both describe my energetic tendencies to a T, right? They're both very accurate, but yet at the same time, there are so many people that just identify so heavily. Well, no, I'm a Virgo, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a Capricorn, and I have this because I have this square, I have this aspect, and they rely so heavily upon that. But truly that is not who they are. It is merely energetic tendencies that we have the capability to transcend and detach from and to not be victim of. On one of my last readings, someone had talked about Mercury retrograde. Well, here we are moving into a Mercury retrograde. And this person was like, yeah, I've kind of gotten to a point where Mercury retrograde does not affect me because it's not even just awareness of what's going on. It's not awareness that Mercury is retrograde. It's just an awareness that you transcend all energy and you transcend all emotion and all fear and even all happiness and excitement, right? Because those are all just emotional functions of the third dimension, Let's see what I have all these notes to help me stay organized. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so we talked about all of that stuff. And then we get into the identity portion, which is important for Leo season. This identity, this sense of individualization, like this is who I am. And we kind of fill this identity box with all this stuff. I am this, I wear these clothes, I have this kind of house, this car. It doesn't have to be material stuff. It can be, like I said, astrology, like, oh, I'm an emotional person. I just deal with things in a certain way. This is just the way I am. I said that kind of with a Southern accent. This is just the way I am, that kind of thing. But really what we're left holding at the end of the day is this big box. It's like a hoarder that collects like Ziploc bags. And this box is just full of Ziploc bags or, nonsensical items that are essentially empty. It's this big box of emptiness and something that's not even really worth anything. And this book talks very heavily about death. There's this big section about death and how death is our sole reason to stop wasting time. Now, we all know this. I've spent the past couple days contemplating death a lot. And in so doing, I was reminded of a movie, and I talk about it in Leo as well. This book, I could not get this song out of my head. This song was from the soundtrack of this movie called Fight Club, which is an old movie. I think it's from the 90s or the early 2000s, a Brad Pitt movie. I'm sure most of you have seen it. And I read this book and I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything that this song talks about. I'll put a link. I'm going to play a small snippet of the song for you. I don't know what all the copyright fair use laws are not, so I'm just going to pick like a small little clip. But I'll put the link to the whole song if you want to listen to it. But it's so much about death. Like, you are useless if you don't understand how important death is in the process of learning how to live now. Because you really could die tomorrow. You really, really could. That's the essence of the bucket list, right? And last week I talked about this 100 things that I was doing. I still only have about 50. I think I added a couple more. Maybe I have like 52 now. Well, maybe I'll just go with that. That's a lot of things. A lot of things that I want to do before I die. And again, like there's no reasons why not. I spent a lot of time thinking about all the reasons why I have no reasons not to do this stuff. There's no reason to not, you know? The problem is, you know, it does talk a lot about fear. The fear is the sole reason why most of us don't do anything, and we lock ourselves into this, it's not realistic, it's not logical, it's not practical kind of a box. When I quit my job in 2016, I remember having this conversation with my boss. He's like one of my best friends, so he and I could talk about pretty much anything, and it was a very open, fluid conversation. And I told him, I said, you know, like, because I kind of got snippy at him at the office because I was just irritable because I hated being there. I hated being in the office. It was like the worst thing ever. Even though I was making tons of money, I was just, like it just stole my spirit away from me. And I snipped at him one day, and then we went home after it was like 5 p.m. or whatever, go home, and he called me. He's like, hey, are you okay? You know, like, you were kind of edgy today. You kind of took it out on me. Like, what's going on? I can be a real bitch sometimes. Virgo, Scorpio. Like, yeah, okay, I can be a bitch for reals. And I said, you know, James, that's not his real name, but I said, James, you know, I'm really so needing to release and to untether myself. I think I even used the word untether, which is interesting because this book is called An Untethered Soul. And I was like, this job, like, I'm so happy you're making millions of dollars, but like, it does nothing for me. There's nothing spiritually satisfying here. I feel like I'm dying inside. And that's kind of when we worked out the arrangement where I would be a freelancer, he'd remain my client, and everything essentially would stay the same. I would just be able to travel. Pretty much. But I remember what he said. He said, when I explained what I wanted, he said, you know, it's a very mature way to look at it, but you know you're being incredibly irresponsible. Him being a money guy, right? Thinking about retirement and family and leaving a legacy and building something, and his whole life is based around wealth. His whole life is based around wealth. And he's here chastising me for being irresponsible. But my thought is it irresponsible to live the life you have to the fullest? At least I won't be hiding behind a desk. My biggest fear, and maybe this is the motivator, right, is to be 90 years old and looking back and think of all the things that I wish I had done. That's my greatest fear. And there is this significant sense of urgency with that, to hurry up and do everything. And I don't think that list is ever going to end, right? As I do something else is going to come up, and I may change my mind and take something off because I don't care about it anymore, or, it's going to be this fluid type of thing. But here, with the eclipse season, let's tie it back to what's really going on, plus the Sun-Uranus square as well. Squares and oppositions have their different effects, but they're still kind of challenging effects, right? This concept of individuality or identity versus humanity. And unfortunately, Leo is trapped in this concept of a superficial identity, but really it's not. Oh, I put the strength card back in. Oh, here it is. It's not the superficial identity. It's really the true consciousness, right? It's the I will. It's the force behind everything else. The true creative spirit that is indicative or representative of the creation of the universe. The way a Leo creates, or our Leo energy, because we've all got it, right? Mine's in my 11th house. I've got Venus in there, right? My Leo creative force is a window, a pinhole kind of little gateway of understanding of what it was like and what happened during the creation of the universe, creating life. Right? That's why the 5th house is also associated with children and the creation of children, the creation of life. How can we not look at the microcosm within the macrocosm? How can we not do that? As above, so below. We know that. We have to do that. We have to look at our individual, human, Earth, our solar system, Milky Way galaxy kind of locale. We have to look at that in the greater spectrum, right? And it gives us huge, tremendous insights into the purpose and the meaning of the world, right? The minute we start separating Leo from the superficial ego into that kind of self, that kind of identity, that's when we really become more mature. That's really a turning point for us, because then we enter into Virgo. And the soul, the understanding of that consciousness, the understanding of that soul, meets the hermit. Can we just, I don't know, let's just pull out all the cards. Let's just do that. Sorry, I didn't organize this properly. I didn't think about it ahead of time. And then we meet the wise man on the mountain, which is where our soul goes to perfect itself. Our soul goes to attain further understanding and to be able to control thoughts, control emotions, or to detach from those things, to become true masters, to understand what manifestation even actually is. And I know many of you on my channel with this weekly bump, I'm separating you guys because I know that my monthly reading audience is not as advanced, right? Those are people that tend to focus on the here and now and just really only what's right in front of them. No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I just know there's a difference. And this is where true alchemy begins to come online. This is when people might even be tempted to use their power for negative forces as well. This is when people might be approached by other people because of the knowledge that they have. But if they're used, if the tools and the power is used for the greater good, that's when we make our way into the concept of Aquarius, which is about the oneness, the greater collective, right? Pisces more about the universe itself, Aquarius more the oneness, the one mind kind of thing. To understand our own self, our own mind, is to understand the whole. And I talk about that all the time. That's not new stuff. We must travel through Leo first and do the perfection process and all the processes in between, right? Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, before that unity can occur. must learn to live free of restriction, because death reminds us that life is meant to be lived. Leo. That's why Leo is passionate. It's big, it's dramatic, it's huge. Like, yes, let's live life. Let's live to the fullest. Now I understand who I am. Now I am free. Leo is a very liberated energy, very liberated, just like Aquarius. They're the same in that manner. You know, like a Virgo is a little more restricted, but because it's trying to refine itself, it's trying to hold back, it's trying to control. But it's like once you have that first discovery, it's like, this is who I am, and it's huge, and the light and the love and the open heart chakra is just undeniable, you know? So I am going to play a little bit of that song for you. Again, it's from the movie Fight Club. It's a little negative, the whole song. However, the message behind it couldn't be any more on point. Like, it's everything that I'm talking about here. So, what am I doing here? Okay. Yes, turn the volume up.
You are not your bank account. You are not the clothes you wear. You are not the contents of your wallet. You are not your bowel cancer. You are not your grande latte. You are not the car you drive. You are not your fucking khakis. You have to give up. You have to give up. You have to realize that someday you will die. Until you know that, you are useless.
So anyway, that's just a little clip that I wanted to show, simply because the message is all about stripping away the falseness, right? And Leo can get so caught up in the superficiality. If there's an immature Leo, it can be like one of the worst, like, kind of people that just live so big and so dramatic, and they get so caught up in the way that people make them feel, right? But if you get a mature Leo, someone that understands their royalty, who understands their real power and their awareness, I mean, it's like the best person in the world. I mean, the contrast is so big between a negative, polarized Leo and because it's just draw sign of drama, so it's, of course, the contrast is dramatic, of course. And we all have that royalty within us, right? It's all in there somewhere. We all have something, whether it's 6th house, 7th house, 10th house, 4th house, whatever. There's Leo in there for you. And it is the self behind the worldly identity. That is our royalty. Yeah, that's what I said. It's our job to untrap ourselves, to untether ourselves, and to live the life that we really absolutely can live. I wanted to make this message positive because I feel like my last weekly bumps have been a little bit like mopey, you know, Cancer season, Sun opposing Pluto. That Sun opposing Pluto kicked my butt. I don't know about you guys, but that was really rough on me. Just brought up all the Scorpio moon, right? Now here I am putting myself in the box. It's so hard not to do that, right? But it just brought up all the stuff. And this book talks about the process of breaking free from fear and breaking free from pain and all of that. Just a little bit. It's not what the whole book is about. But that's the part that really affected me, because that's really what was holding me back from really living my whole best life. And it was just circumstance. Well, maybe not circumstantial or coincidental, which I don't think anyone here believes in that, right? It's a synchronicity that the week before I had just kind of talked about my 100 things list. The things on my list are kind of big. Like, I was even researching something this week as well. I don't know why I'm really drawn to the heart of Africa. Like, Africa is such I have a soul connection there somehow, somewhere along the line, whether I lived there or I went through something really dramatic there, or I don't know what it is. But it's weird because when my parents divorced, my father moved to South Africa. It was like the farthest possible. I mean, living in Utah at the time, and for my dad to go to South Africa, it was like, oh, like my whole heart went there, right? And like, there's always this curiosity. At the time I was young, I didn't know like South Africa was kind of separate from the kind of treacherous parts. At the time there was the whole, it was in the 90s, right? Nelson Mandela and apartheid and all that stuff, still going on. And my mom, she's a Leo, she's a dramatic Leo, and so she was like, oh, your father's gonna die, there's gonna be all this bad stuff happening. And so I had this whole like, my heart goes out to Africa kind of thing. And it's been with me kind of my whole life. So I kind of revisited this idea of visiting, doing volunteer work. I'm very drawn to the Congo, the DRC specifically, which is the eastern part of the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. That's where all the wars are, because all the rebels from Rwanda and Uganda, they're all kind of coming in and killing and pillaging and raping for the sake of setting up mines for all the resources, right? The gold and manganese and cobalt and all these things that make up our automobiles, our electronics, and everything we use essentially really comes from there, right? And the true cost of all of those things. And these women who are products, and children mostly, there's like mostly children that are getting raped and pillaged there. You know, they are being cast out of their villages because once a woman is raped, she is then filthy or unworthy, and she is not accepted in her village anymore. And here's oh my God, like I'm gonna start crying because like these poor women, these poor people who they're merely victims of war crimes and they're being rejected from their society. So my thing was like, how do I get there to volunteer? That was something on my list. I think I need to learn French because they speak French in the Congo, right? So I think I'm gonna need to learn French in order to do that. So that's gonna be something that's a long-standing process that I'll actively work to do something, even if it's just go pass out blankets or water or help administer something, you know, I don't know. Another thing that I always really wanted to do was to volunteer to snuggle babies. Have you guys heard about this? Where you can, I reached out to 2 hospitals in Vegas, so when I'm there, maybe I can do it. I don't know if they offer it though, but you can go visit the maternity ward, and for those babies that are kind of belong to the state because the mothers are so drug addicted and completely off their rockers kind of thing, these babies need physical touch. So you can go and hold them and pick them up and touch them. Like, I think you hold them for like 4 hours at a time, and so that they can feel that warmth and that love. Like, that sounds like something I want to do. So that's on my list. Then there's other little things like, no, I can't even remember. Anyway, so that's kind of what this list is really all about. We can call it a bucket list if you want, but I think that's a little, kind of even like doesn't even give it the credit that it really deserves. Really what it is a list of life. A list of the life that you feel that you really need to live. And there's really no reason why not nowadays, you know. I really recommend reading that book. I recommend reading that book to everyone. Okay, I think that's good. I think I'm out of things to say now. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying the monthlies. I'll get those out the rest of the next couple days. And I will see you next week. Thanks. Bye.